everyone! Would you like to learn about the subjunctive mood in English? This is an advanced grammar lesson with a point that many students have questions about. Welcome to Jen's Jyugyou. My name is Jen, and today we're going to learn all about the subjunctive mood in English. Please take a look at these 4 sentences. I suggest that he visit the doctor. I wish I were rich. It is important that we support small businesses. If she were here, I'd hug her. In all 4 of these sentences, many students think that they have incorrect verbs, that there's something wrong with these sentences. But actually, all 4 of these sentences are correct because they're all using something in English called the subjunctive mood. Basically, in English, there are 2 main moods: the subjunctive mood and the indicative mood. When you first start learning English, everybody learns the indicative mood because the indicative mood is used for things that are true, that are facts, that are happening. For example, my name is Jen. I am Canadian. I live in Toronto. These sentences are facts, they are things that are true, and they are examples of the indicative mood. The opposite, or the other main mood that we have in English, is the subjunctive mood. The subjunctive mood is used for things that are not true, that are not real. They are hypothetical, meaning that they are not a fact, they are imagined. To help you understand more about the subjunctive mood, I've broken it down into the 3 main ways that we use it. We use the subjunctive mood for suggestions and recommendations, demands or requests, and wishes. These are the 3 main ways that the subjunctive mood is used. I want to take a look at how we will use the subjunctive mood in these 3 ways using clauses with the word that, because this is the most common way that we see these types of sentences. So what this means is that in your sentence, after you see the word that, you're going to use a base verb. Keep the verb in its basic base form. It's like the infinitive without the word to. That is the verb you need to use. For example, I mentioned that one of the ways we use the subjunctive is for suggestions. I suggest that he visit the doctor. I suggest that he visit the doctor. Usually, when you're making simple present sentences, you would write, he visits the doctor. Because in simple present, when your subject is he, she, or it, your verb always has an S. But when we're using the subjunctive mood, and especially using it with that clauses, the verb does not get an S. Never, ever, ever. So I suggest that he visit the doctor. Another example would be, officials recommend that we stay inside. Even if I change the person, we, if I change that to she, it would still be, officials recommend that she stay inside, keeping that verb in the base form. She proposed that the company increase production. It is advised that we wash our hands for at least 20 seconds. The second main way that we can use the subjunctive mood in English is for demands or requests. She demands that he arrive on time. He insists that we save money. She asked that he be home by 10 o'clock. So remember, be is the base verb. Usually it would be, he is home by 10 o'clock, but we're using the base form of the verb, so be. She asked that he be home by 10 o'clock. I request that you subscribe to Jen's Jyugyou. The third way I mentioned that we use the subjunctive mood is for wishes. I wish that the situation end soon. Parents prefer that their kids eat more fruits and vegetables. He desires that his family have a better life. So usually his family would be has, but subjunctive mood, so he desires that his family have a better life. Now that you understand how the subjunctive is mainly working with that clauses, if you want to make it negative, then you're going to add the word not in front of the base verb. That's it, just the word not. Do not use the word don't. That's a big mistake that I hear many students making. My boss demands that we not be late. My boss demands that we not be late. This is a perfect sentence. So you're putting not in front of the base verb after that in the subjunctive mood to talk about a demand. His mother insists that he not play video games too much. So his mother insists that he not play video games. She prefers that he not drink so much. She commands that the meeting not get postponed. The doctor suggests that she not eat so much sugar. In all of these examples of the subjunctive mood and using that clauses, there were specific verbs in the sentences, specific verbs that will go together with that to make the subjunctive mood. So it's important that you remember these verbs because these verbs are the verbs that are used the most often in the subjunctive mood. So here are the 12 verbs that we talked about in today's lesson. Suggest, recommend, propose, advise, demand, insist, ask, request, command, desire, wish, prefer. Those are the verbs that we talked about in today's lesson that go together with the subjunctive. Now, before we move on to the next part of the lesson, I want to mention two important things grammatically. The first is that oftentimes in British English is that people will use the word should when making these types of subjunctive sentences. So in my example, I suggest that he visit the doctor. Many people in England might say, I suggest that he should visit the doctor. I recommend that you watch Jen's Jyugyou videos. I recommend that you should watch Jen's Jyugyou videos. Oftentimes in British English, I hear people using should, and oftentimes in American English, I hear people omitting the word that. So in my previous example, I suggest that he visit the doctor. People will just say, I suggest he visit the doctor. They will delete the word that. The reason why I'm mentioning what happens in both British English and American English is because here in Canada, it's a mixture and people will use both. Some people, when speaking English in Canada, will add should into the sentence, whereas some other people will not add should and will actually delete the word that, making their sentences even shorter. Whichever way you choose to make your sentences, they are still in the subjunctive mood and will still be understood by native speakers. Now, I want to mention to you another really common pattern with using the subjunctive, and this is to talk about demands or requests, specifically those that are urgent, that are really, really important. This pattern for the subjunctive usually starts with it is plus an adjective that means it's really important or it's urgent, that, and then who are you talking to, who is it important for, and then a base verb, similar to the types of sentences that we've already made, except using adjectives instead of verbs. So specifically, I've chosen the top most commonly used 6 adjectives that go together with these types of subjunctive sentences. It is urgent that she call me back. Right? So in this sentence, it is urgent that she call me back. It follows the pattern I mentioned. It is plus the adjective that means important. So it is urgent, and then that, who are you talking to? She, and then your base verb, call. So usually she calls, but for the subjunctive mood, she call. It is urgent that she call me back. It is important that you study English. It is crucial that he follow the directions. It is imperative that you listen carefully. It is essential that he turn himself in. It is vital that she get to the hospital soon. So to quickly review, the top 6 adjectives that are often used in the subjunctive this way are urgent, important, crucial, imperative, essential, and vital. Another important point that I want to mention to you is that the subjunctive mood is often used for wishes. And the most common way that wishes are usually expressed in the subjunctive mood are, I wish I were, plus whatever it is that you wish. So for example, I wish I were rich. In the sentence, I wish I were rich, you might be thinking that it is wrong because with I, you should use was. I wish I was rich. I do hear people say this often, but it is incorrect. For all subjects, for all pronouns, you must use were. I were, he, she, it were. They were, we all were. I wish I were rich. She wishes she were smarter. He wishes you were here. We wish it were sunny. So you can see no matter what the pronoun was, we always use were. Another common pattern with wishes is using would, and then after would, a base verb. So for example, I wish I would win the lottery. She wishes he would call her. They wish the Blue Jays would win. And speaking of using would, this is connected to our final point for today's lesson. And that is a way that is very common to make suggestions in the subjunctive mood. And this is if I were. So to make suggestions, if I were you, I would. And then what is it that you would do? If I were you, I would give this video a thumbs up. A lot of grammar textbooks often introduce this type of subjunctive mood or conditional sentences with the sentence example, if I were a bird, I would fly. If he were to win the lottery, he would travel around the world. If she were to lose weight, she would buy a new dress. If they were to get a loan, they would buy a house. So these are all example sentences of the subjunctive mood. So if subject were, subject would, and the end. So today you learned all about the subjunctive mood in English. You learned the 3 most common ways that the subjunctive mood is used for suggestions, commands, and for wishes. You also learned the most common patterns of making sentences this way in the subjunctive mood. The most important thing you need to remember about the subjunctive mood is that even though the grammar seems weird because of all the grammar rules you've learned for the indicative mood, the rules are correct because you're talking about a hypothetical, unreal, non-factual situation. And now it's time for question of the day. I have 3 questions for you, and I want you to answer them using the sentence structures from today's lesson. Question number 1, what is something that you suggest or recommend? Number 2, what is something that you demand or request? Number 3, what is something that you wish? Please answer these 3 questions in the comments below using any of the grammar structures from today's lesson. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found it useful, I suggest that you subscribe to Jen's Jyugyou so you don't miss any English lessons. And I wish that you would give this video a thumbs up. Good luck with your English studies, everyone. See you in the next lesson.